Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Okay, it's 9:30 already. I'll go ahead and call to order this hearing of Z0273-25 and Z0274-25, the Sandy Water Treatment Plant. Excuse me. My name is Joe Turner. I'm the county's hearings officer. I'll start with some brief announcements and a summary of the process so everyone understands how they can participate in the hearing today. Looks like it's just staff and the applicant today, but I still have to hit these certain issues in my intro. I start by saying I'm not a county employee. I'm licensed as an attorney and trained as a planner. I serve under contract to the Board of Commissioners. I say that so you know you're getting an independent review of the application before me today. My role as the hearings officer is to conduct public hearings and make decisions about certain land use matters in Clackamas County. Excuse me, I'm fighting a cold here. In making those decisions, I'm required to apply the county's existing laws. I don't have the authority to vary from or change the laws. If you think that the laws need to be changed, you can work with Board of Commissioners to do that. But state law requires that this application be judged based on the laws in effect when the application was filed. As a hearings officer, I'm to provide an unbiased decision maker, and I believe I am unbiased with regard to the application before me today. I've not had any pre-hearing contact with any of the parties regarding the substance of the application, and I don't have any interest in the subject property or any of the surrounding properties. But anyone has the right to challenge my impartiality, to argue that I'm biased in one way or another, and you could do that when it's your opportunity to testify. Procedure will follow. I'll start by asking staff to summarize their staff report, copies of which are available on the county's website. Um, Staff is not the project proponent. They're merely providing an overview of the project, the process, and the laws, and their opinion as to whether or not the applicable approval criteria are met. The applicant has the burden of proof to show that all the criteria are met. The applicant will then have an opportunity, after staff will have an opportunity to testify and present their proposal and respond to the staff report. If anybody else wants to say anything about this application in support, in opposition, or with questions or concerns, they may do so. Once everyone has had an initial opportunity to testify, I'll give staff and the applicant alone the opportunity to respond to the testimony that was offered. If those responses include any new evidence, I'll give everyone a chance to respond to the new evidence. Otherwise, I'll close the public portion of the hearing and announce what I'm going to do. In most cases, I'll issue a written decision within about 2 weeks after the close of the public record. I'll send my decision to the county. The county will send it to parties of record. So anybody who testifies orally or in writing before the close of the record will be sure and receive a copy of my decision when it's issued. Uh, Anyone with an interest in this application may offer relevant oral or written testimony, but testimony should be relevant to the applicable approval criteria which are set out in the staff report. Also, please don't repeat testimony offered by yourself or earlier witnesses. Um, if you feel you need more time to prepare, you can ask me to hold the record open or continue the hearing. If I hold the record open, you'll have an opportunity to submit additional written testimony and evidence before I make a decision. If I continue the hearing, we can come back and do this again at a later date. But whether or not the hearing is continued or the record is held open for any other purpose, state law requires that I hold the record open for an additional week for the applicant alone to submit a final written argument without any new evidence. The applicant can waive that right if they choose, but if anybody else wants me to hold the record open for any other purpose or to continue the hearing, you must make that request before the close of the hearing today. Also, my decision must comply with state law that requires that I issue a final written decision in this case within 150 days after the application was filed. So there's some limit to how long I can continue the hearing or hold the record open. It is important that all parties make their best case to me. My decisions are final for purposes of the county, but may be appealed to the Land Use Board of Appeals or LUBA. However, LUBA generally will not allow new testimony and evidence on appeal. So it's important that if you feel it's important that myself or any future decision maker knows something about this application, you need to make sure it gets into the record before me. And in order to preserve your right to appeal, you or someone expressly representing you must testify orally or in writing before the close of the record. And in order to raise an issue on appeal, someone must have raised that issue before me with enough specificity that people can understand what the issue is. When you testify, please begin by stating your name and your full mailing address. Please spell your last name so I get it right, although it looks like everybody's last name appears on my screen today. But that concludes my introduction. Staff will give us an overview of the Zoom process and then their staff report.
Excuse me, Mr. Turner, just as a matter of housekeeping, I have Matt Hasty on here 3 times.
Yeah, so I'm the real Matt Hasty.
Okay.
Okay.
And one of the other Matt Hasties is actually Adam Odell from Stantec. And I think the third Matt Hasty is actually Ben Straight, also from Stantec. I can't see his face, but I think that's who that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just
it-
one second.
there it
So, with the headphones on,
That's
that is
Adam Odell. Yeah.
Adam
Bell.
Bell.
Yep. And then the guy with the glasses and no headphones is Ben Straight, Strate. I spell that right?
Perfect.
Excellent. Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
STRATE.
ATE. Yes, correct. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Are you ready for me to read
Yep.
my information? Okay. This public hearing will be conducted virtually using the Zoom platform. Panelists for today's hearing, which include the hearings officer, county staff, and applicant representatives, have both audio and video capability. Audience members who have joined the meeting will have their mics muted unless they wish to testify, in which case they will be called upon to do so by the county staff moderator. Audience members' video will not be turned on at any time. Today's hearing is being recorded as required by law. The county will make every effort to post the recording on the county website later today. There is a designated time during the hearing when it will be open for testimony. The hearings officer will make it clear when this is. If you want to provide testimony, you will utilize the raise hand feature. Attendees on PC and iPad, you will have a raise hand button on the Zoom bar, which will be either at the top or the bottom of your screen, depending on your device. When the moderator switches you over to provide testimony, your screen will look different for a little while. Primarily, you will see all participants' cameras, not just the one who is speaking. Staff will call upon you when it is time for you to provide testimony. Be sure to provide your name and mailing address when you begin. Once you have provided your testimony, your mic will be muted and your screen will be returned to normal. If the record is left open at the end of the hearing and you wish to submit additional written testimony, email the written testimony to myself, Joy Fields, at jfields@clackamas.us, or mail it to Clackamas County Planning and Zoning Division at 150 Beaver Creek Road, Oregon City, Oregon, 97045. The staff contact email address is also available on the webpage where you found the Zoom link for today's meeting or hearing. Testimony must be received by 4 p.m. on the day that the record closes. People who testify and provide their mailing address will receive a copy of the hearings officer's written decision. If you do not wish to testify but would like to receive the decision, you must provide your email or standard mailing address by emailing it to the staff contact for the application or by entering it in the Zoom chat function during the hearing.
Whenever you're ready to proceed with your staff report.
We are here today for Z0273-25 and Z0274-25. The applicant requested that the variance be heard with the conditional use. concurrently. And so although Z0274-25 is for a variance that does not require a public hearing, it is being considered during today's public hearing because of the concurrency request. Just an overview of the project. The water treatment facility currently exists on the subject property. It was originally approved in 1977 through a conditional use permit. The property that is located on was created through a second conditional use and land division approval in 2004 through file Z0551-04. Today, the hearing is for upgrades that the applicant is proposing to the existing water treatment facility. Those upgrades are being considered through the conditional use process, as is the variance to the front setback for some of the upgrades that the applicant is requesting. Notice was sent out, and comments were received from the Department of State Lands that indicated that no wetland permit would be needed because the work was avoiding impacts to wetlands, although there may be jurisdictional wetlands or waterways on the site. ODOT identified that if the county transportation and engineering staff required improvements to the driveway that intersects Highway 26, that permit and coordination with ODOT would be required. And then transportation and engineering staff provided comments related to parking and roadway design requirements. In the timber zone, which the property is located in, water treatment facilities, as well as water-related utilities are a conditional use. And so that is why we are here today for the public hearing, following the conditional use process set out in 1307 and the zoning development ordinance. In section 1203 of the zoning development ordinance, it identifies the criteria that a conditional use must meet to be approvable. The site has to be suitable for the proposed use. Because the site was created for the water treatment facility, staff find that it is suitable for the proposed use. It must meet the concurrency standards for the transportation system. And as an unmanned utility facility, this proposed use and expansion of the existing water treatment facility complies with 1007.07. The use must not substantially limit, impair, or preclude the use of surrounding properties for primary uses. The surrounding properties are also zoned timber or rural residential, farm, and forest, and the primary uses are rural residential, farm, or forest uses, and staff found that the use would not substantially limit, impair, or preclude the use of the surrounding properties for the primary uses that they are allowed, with the conditions of approval that staff suggested. The use must comply with the comprehensive plan, policies, and goals, and the comprehensive plan contains policies and goals related to the provision of safe drinking water, which this is geared to provide. And so staff found that it complied with the comprehensive plan. And it must comply with any overlays found in the 700s or specific standards in the 800s and the design standards in the 1000s that apply to institutional use, such as this utility facility. Staff found that reviewing all of those overlays and standards, the application met the required criteria. The variance being requested is for the cover facility and the underground tank. The cover facility covers the area highlighted in red on this site plan, as well as the underground tank is located down at the southern extent of the property. And the front setback in the timber zone is 30 feet. If it was only the underground tank that was not meeting the setback standards, we do have a provision in ZDO 903 that could cover the underground tank setback that is being requested, but the applicant also is proposing a structure to cover the equipment that is highlighted in that red box. Therefore, they're requesting a setback to the front setback standards. Staff considered the front setback and found that it was the minimum necessary to meet the needs, and that the hardship created by the use was what was creating the need for the variance. So this use as a water treatment facility is very unique to the area. There are no other water treatment facilities in the area, and so the use is unique, and the applicant met the criteria for the variance. With the application materials that I reviewed, staff recommended approval with conditions of approval that ensure that the development standards of the timber zone are met, as well as the other standards for the conditional use and the variance.
Thank you, Ms. Field. Excuse me. What is the set? How far back is the canopy structure from the front lot line?
If I remember correctly, the narrative mentioned it was 24.5 feet.
Okay.
And we'll show a map of that at some point.
Great. Yeah, I just didn't see any dimension. There's a lot of dimensions on the plan, but I didn't see that particular dimension. The underground tank, are there above ground components that are subject to the setback? The applicant saying no. How is it? Clearly the structure's subject to setback. I'm just curious how an underground tank is also subject to setback. My understanding is it's only above ground things.
If the underground structure connects to above ground structures, it 903 talks about it needing to meet setbacks. There's some gray area around that. The connection to the above ground structures, where do they need to be located? But the applicant unmuted to talk about the connection to the other facilities, so I will be quiet.
Is that clearly the above the canopy structure is subject? I was just curious if I was missing something in the code, but that answers that question. I can look at 903 if I have. I'm just, that's more curiosity than anything else.
Yeah, I think our understanding was because none of it's above
Mr.
ground.
Hasty, can you go ahead and state your name and et cetera?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Matt Hasty with MIG, and we'll give a brief presentation later, but I just want to comment on this. Our understanding was because it's not above ground, it's
The tank itself.
It's essentially exempt. I mean, it's not causing any interference with visually or anything else between the lot line and the setback. So, and it's a pretty minor, so.
Okay.
And we can talk about the underground connection if you need to when we get to the presentation.
If you want to, Ms. Fields, are you done with your presentation, I assume?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, if the applicant wants to go ahead and proceed with your presentation.
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll start us off and just note who's here representing the applicant, and let a couple of the other folks introduce themselves as well. So my name is Matt Hasty. I'm a senior project manager with MIG, which is a consulting firm. I'm in our Portland office, and Carrie Brennicky, also with MIG, did a lot of the work on the actual application. We have a third person who I think is, he's participating, but not as a panelist, Keegan Gulick, also with MIG. So if you see him on there, he's not planning to testify. He's just kind of here to sit in. And then we have AJ Thorne, who's with the city of Sandy, who is really the applicant. It's their facility. And then Adam Odell and Ben Straight, both from Stantec. And I'll just see if AJ or Adam or Ben want to say anything, and then we'll jump into the presentation, and Adam will do the first part and I'll do the second part.
Sounds good. Anybody want to add anything before we proceed with the presentation? Nope.
Okay. Adam, I was going to share that unless you want to.
Sorry, I'm not a Zoom guy, so I struggle to find mute and share and all that kind of stuff. Go ahead, Matt.
I will
I'm with
give
you.
it a try. There we go. Okay. I'm a Zoom guy. I used to be a Teams guy, but now I'm a Zoom guy. So, um, all right. So we'll get started here. And again, Adam's going to start us off and just talk about, why this project is being proposed, what the benefits are, and just give you some of the background and context, and say a little bit about the facility itself. And then I'll just kind of reiterate or add to some of what Joy said earlier. And yeah, go from there. And Adam, just tell me when to advance the slides if I don't do it quickly enough.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Adam Odell, Ben Straight. We're with Stantec. We're essentially hired by the city of Sandy to help them manage and execute the project. I think Ms. Fields already kind of went through this slide a little bit, just that the lot is about 7 miles east of Sandy. And they constructed a water treatment plant to treat Alder Creek water back in the 70s. It's not a particularly robust treatment process. The water in the creek, Alder Creek, is very clean. As you know, Bull Run, of course, is drunk without filtration. This could probably be the same case, but just a very small lot in the middle of the forest. You can go to the next slide. The existing filtration process was upgraded in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it's essentially, I don't want to get too nerdy on water treatment. It is what I do for a living. I can't help it sometimes, but it's basically a very simple filtration process. If the creek water does get a turbidity spike from a heavy runoff, or God forbid a forest fire or something like that, the filters would probably be non-functional or could not treat the volume that's needed for the residents. And those filters are housed inside that filtration building. There's a pond on site, and that pond is used to collect the backwash water from the filters. The filters have to be backwashed periodically, daily. And that backwash waste is sent to the pond. Typically, the solids will settle out, because these are just creek solids after all. They'll settle out, and then they do have the ability to recycle that backwash waste to the head of the facility. Not that they necessarily do. So it's a very quick overview of the water treatment process. You can go to the next slide, Matt, please. I just wanted to point out that the property line is not the fence line. It varies quite a bit, and the lot is just slightly larger than what's actually fenced, and the fence doesn't actually match the property line. You can go to the next slide. Just wanted to point that out. The thing about designing and building water infrastructure is that we have to keep the existing system online while we build a new water treatment plant. You just can't go in there and demolish a water treatment plant. We have to provide water 24/7, 365 to the residents. So that's kind of why that building is located where it is. We had to build a parallel water treatment process adjacent to the existing and keep things online. We are rehabilitating a raw water pump station. It's not shown on this plan, but we have a very low head pump station from the intake on Alder Creek, pumps water up to the treatment plant. We're using a low pressure membrane filtration technology. Those membranes are stored in pretty robust containers. It's labeled with a little diamond D on the site, on the site plan there on the right.
Mhm.
And the rest of the surrounding infrastructure is essentially supporting the membrane treatment process. They use things like, we need chemicals for like disinfection. We do have to clean the membranes, and the membranes also do get backwashed just like filters do. And they get backwashed very, very frequently. We are also upgrading the backwash storage ponds. That pond is old, it is unlined. It's not super reliable, so we are rehabilitating the backwash ponds and relining them to prevent infiltration, and then we are recycling all of the backwash waste to the head of the facility. The city of Sandy only has a very small water right to Alder Creek, and we want to use every drop of water that we can, because if we infiltrate it or let it disappear, we're losing water essentially. So we want to maximize our water right. Once the facility is constructed, we're going to use half of that existing facility to house chemicals. Membranes do have some chemical, like I kind of stated earlier, that we need to use to do things like cleaning of the membranes and for disinfection. So we are going to repurpose that existing facility for chemical storage, and then we're getting a new standby generator. The building, we're not constructing a building. We're just going to construct a canopy around the membrane treatment units just because they are already housed in a very robust structure. We just want to protect it from weather. We want to try to screen it in case there's some rogue deer hunter out there, you know, who wants to do something with the 30-06 or something like that. So we were trying to kind of just keep a little bit of a visual barrier on the site. You can go to the next slide, Matt. And just a couple renderings of what that canopy structure looks like. The membranes are underneath it. The tank that you're looking at is called it's essentially a raw water storage tank. We pump water to that tank, and then we use that water to kind of feed the membrane process. And then also kind of hidden in that building is the finished water pumping wet well and pumps, which essentially take that finished water and then pump it to the city's first reservoir in the system. And
what direction are we looking here on that bottom one? Is that the front? And
yeah, so you would be looking southeast, I believe. So the road or the access road would be in front of it. I don't know, Matt, can we see your cursor on there if you have your cursor?
Yeah, I think
you can actually
here.
Go back. Keep that tank in mind. Go back one slide, Matt.
Okay.
And you can see the tank right there is
right?
Diamond C right there under the word new pumps. So that would be the little.
So so that's the bottom one, kind of a somewhat of a rear view.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So you're kind of looking at what
great, that helps. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Yes.
And if there's I think that's about it. If you have any nerdy water treatment questions you want to ask, feel free. But otherwise, that's my 2-minute spiel.
I don't have any off the top of my head, but thank you.
Awesome. And I don't have too much to add.
Oh, Joy has a question.
Joy.
Go ahead, Joy.
My question was the backwash pond. It seemed like from the 77 land use approval that was also used for firefighting, for a helicopter water source for fighting fires. Is that still planned, or is that no longer consistent with water treatment facilities?
I don't know the answer to that one, Matt. Do you know?
I do not know if that's still sort of assumed to be a potential purpose of it. It wasn't the primary purpose, but it was something that could be used for per the previous conditional use approval. And I don't know if AJ, sorry to put you on the spot, AJ, but if you know to answer that question.
Well, I will say one thing. We do actually have the ability to pump directly from the raw water pump station to those ponds. So if there was a fire and we needed to just fill it with creek water, we could actually do that. You wouldn't be relying on the backwash process to fill them.
But would there be an issue with since you're going to line them, if a helicopter drops its bucket there, is that a potential impact?
No, because we're going to put a riprap, which is stone cobbles over the liner.
Okay.
So we wouldn't damage the liner.
Yeah, that's the only impact I could conceive of, but
yeah.
To the best of my knowledge, it's never been used as a helicopter.
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
Oh, sorry, AJ Thornton, Public Works Director, City of Sandy.
Thanks. Your words showing up for a second there.
Hey, at least I'm not Matt Hasty. To the best of my knowledge, our pond has never actually been used as a fill station for a helicopter firefighting, but we are more than willing to do exactly as Adam just mentioned and keep those ponds full if there are events and allow that to happen. So it can still be an intended use if needed.
Okay. Ms. Fields, did that answer your question?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify because you may see in my staff report that I mentioned it because it was
I did see that.
Yeah. So thank you for the clarity, y'all.
Thank you. Anything further from the applicant?
I'll just say a few words, but not too much. So some of this just repeats what Joy has already said, and so I won't really add to it, just noting that where the facility is located, that You know, it per the staff report, it does comply with the various sections of the zoning and development ordinance that are applicable. And just, I think, as Adam said, the reason for the variance is because this is such a tight site, and because of the nature of the parallel facilities and the sizing requirements of the facilities that are being built, we just couldn't get it further from the road, and that's the reason for requesting the variance. And as Joy said, that's the setback is 30 feet. We're at 24.5, so it's a pretty minor setback, and or a pretty minor variance from that setback. This kind of shows you that as well. I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. So that's sort of the reasoning behind the variance. And I think from our perspective, the road that's, you know, accessing this, it's essentially the city has an easement across timberland that's owned by, I believe, Weyerhaeuser. They're the only folks who use this road. So there's no visual impacts for anyone other than the city staff who are driving to this place and the folks who are out cutting timber for Weyerhaeuser. So I think, you know, from our perspective, the setback is in some ways less important because of the impacts on anybody who's kind of driving along that road are really limited. So I just kind of wanted to note that about the variance. And then also just give you a sense of the site context. These are a couple photos, one from the access road, and then two from kind of the other side of the berm that's on the back side of the property. So there's this pretty large berm. It's, I think, close to 30 feet tall, and it does a really good job, along with the vegetation on top of it, of screening this facility from the relatively few homes that are located about 500 feet away. And I understand there weren't comments. There were no public comments from the nearest residents, and I'm guessing because some of them probably don't even know this thing's here, and won't really see any kind of impacts from any of the changes or improvements to it. So that was pretty much all I had to say, other than we really appreciate and are pleased, you know, that staff recommends approval. We've reviewed the conditions of approval. We don't have any issues with those. So those are all acceptable to us. And just appreciate, you know, staff's time and coordination and responsiveness when we had questions about things. So just wanted to kind of thank staff and everybody involved, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have. And I can stop sharing the screen if that's easier, or if you have questions about anything on the screen, I can circle back.
I don't have any questions at this point. Thank you.
Awesome. I will stop sharing.
For the record, is there anybody else who'd like to say anything about this application in support, opposition, or with questions or concerns? Mr. Gulick, you're the only one who's not a panelist, so if you wanted to say something, you can click on the raise your hand button, and he's not doing so. So I'm assuming that's it from no public comments. Ms. Fields, anything further from the county? No. Anything further from the applicant?
Not for me. I don't
Okay.
think.
The applicant has the right to have me hold the record open for an additional week for you to submit a final written argument without any new evidence. Do you want to waive that right?
I think we're fine to waive that right.
Okay.
Unless.
With that, I will close the hearing. I'll close the record. Based on the findings in the staff report, this application does or will comply with the applicable approval criteria for both the conditional use permit and the variance. So I will approve both applications subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report. I'll issue my decision within roughly 2 weeks. I'll get this out as soon as possible, but I've got a couple of ugly ones in line ahead of you. So I'll do my best to get it out within 2 weeks, but I'll send it to the county. The county will send it to parties of record, and that concludes our hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
You.